are live.
Yes, we are indeed.
Yeah.
How's it going now, Donna?
Good.
Good.
Everybody, welcome to BnB Live, and I'm glad that you're joining. If you're joining after the fact, thank you so much for watching, and we're glad that you're here.
Absolutely. Well, we have a special guest today, don't we?
We do.
And let's introduce our special guest.
Special.
Here he
Yes.
is. Special guest.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody, this is Larry Broughton. I'll let him tell you a little bit about him. I've known him for a lot of years. He's a fellow veteran. He's an entrepreneur, award-winning entrepreneur. He's a great leadership educator. He's a hotelier. He's just done a whole lot of things, and also he has an affinity for Africa, which we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on board.
I'm glad you're here.
It's fun to be here. What a great setup you have here.
Yeah.
Crazy. You guys have not been here and you're in the area. People can come here. Right,
Absolutely.
To the showroom.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
they can.
Nuts.
Well, let's rewind for a quick second because you were actually a part of us coming into the space, Larry, right? You remember that, right?
Part of the move-in crew.
I remember.
Larry was so kind and gracious enough to help us when we were making the move here into the new space. So that's why I was like, we need to rewind for a second because we have history with you with this building already.
Yes,
So
yeah.
thank you.
Well,
so
that's why
much.
I'm a little bit not stunned, but amazed at how beautiful the place turned out, because between this showroom and then what you guys have going on back here in the warehouse, I guess you would call it, or whatever you call it back here, it's a little bit different than when I was here the first time.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We just piled it all in. And I remember the funny thing that I had organized a lot of people to help move that day. And we showed up at the 200 square foot warehouse that I had things in.
It's just crazy to think how
All of this.
yes, was like really packed in there, of course, but
I would
man,
use the word cram.
there you go. That's a great word. Crammed is a better word for sure. Yes.
And you were saying there's no way this is all going to fit in this truck.
Well, no, but then Jason and I kind of put our heads together, and it was like,
Yes.
what's the game? The Tetris?
Yes,
Where you put the little
Tetris.
blocks together.
Tetris.
It's holy smokes. This
Yes.
is amazing.
I think we got that done in like, what, a couple hours
Couple
or
hours.
something like that.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
phenomenal.
And that just leads right into just talking about teams and how when you have a good team and an effective plan that you can execute, wonderfully.
I think it was George Washington who said, don't bet your life on this, but I think it was George Washington who said something like 1 minute of planning saves 8 minutes of execution. So that's a good lesson there,
Yes.
right? Think about
Yes.
remember how many, we had a good number of people there, and if we would have just said, okay, everybody go put the stuff in the truck, it would have been pandemonium.
Right.
But really, Jason and I did put our heads together and say, okay,
Yes.
I think we can do it this way. Let's plan this out a little bit. And
Absolutely.
it went so smoothly. I've been involved with helping people move in the past and moving offices.
Your face
I
says
wasn't
it all.
really looking forward to the day, I got to tell you. That morning I said, oh gosh, my back hurts, or I think I have a headache coming on or something.
Right.
I didn't do it. But boy, was I tempted to do it, because usually they don't go that smoothly.
Yeah.
So I just felt like, I don't know, the universe, Gaia, God, somebody had their hand on the move that day, because we all just had fun that day.
Yeah.
It was a
lot
great
of fun.
day.
And
Yeah.
the great thing about that was, so in the warehouse, we have a lot of racks, and we didn't even have to take those apart.
Right.
We pulled them out, put them in, and put product on them, and they were all aligned like a Tetris game.
That definitely
And that
a
thing was
saver.
filled.
Yeah.
I think there was even room for a few more
Yeah,
things.
we could have done. But the lunch afterwards, what I take away from that the most.
Yes, that was a great time.
There's something that's special that happens when you break bread, when you share a meal together. Because some of us had never met
Right.
before, right? But I felt like the conversations that happened over a meal, it's one of the things, like I'm in the hotel industry, as Aldana had mentioned, and I try to get our team members to recognize that there's something very intimate about the business that we're in. People get naked in our hotel rooms.
Right.
We prepare the food that fuels people's bodies. And when you share that intimacy, something magical happens.
Right.
It's like when you travel the world, right? When you share meals, I mean, crying out loud, how many times you go to Africa, and you start sharing meals with people. And again, there's intimacy when you use your hands. Is what I know. I'm weird. I know I'm weird.
No, that's true. I
But
agree.
something happens. It's a different shift.
Right.
I don't know, but it was a great day. It was a great meal. And thanks for inviting me to do that. And thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so share a little bit about your background for those who don't know you.
My schizophrenic background.
Yeah, your
I did
schizophrenic
have a writer who referred to my background as schizophrenic. I kind of liked that at one point, but I don't know. I don't know how far back we want to go, but I'm currently in the hotel industry. That's probably the major thing I'm involved with. Prior to that, I spent 9 years in the Army. 8 of those were in the Green Berets and Special Forces. That was an amazing experience for me. We were talking about teams earlier. I learned so much about the power of small elite teams. And, when you all believe in the same thing and you are working in your strengths, beautiful things can happen. Prior to that, I grew up in very rural, Upper Appalachia, rural New York. And that was an amazing experience. On the outside, it might look like kind of Art Mayberry RFD, but
No.
but behind every, I don't know, TV set, you pull the curtain back and there's pain and trauma, just like anyone.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of it. I mean, I've been blessed with, like you mentioned, I do a lot of leadership training and written a few books and done a little bit of TV and just try to serve people.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I'd say the same about me. I like what you said about when you're on a team, when people are working in their strengths. And we have a small team with baskets and beads. And one of the things that have no strength at is design and graphics and all those type of things. But we have someone here who is brilliant at that.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful for that, because I'll be looking at something. She said, "Oh, well, let's put this here and let's put that there." I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It looks great, but I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
And then, so when don't have her around and I'm maybe doing a pop-up event, I think, what would Vanessa do?
Yeah. It's a great way to look at life. And I know some of the folks who follow you and are friends of yours, they're business owners. I think it's one of the things that we need to think about is when she is not there for your event, do you have a system?
Right.
Do you have a standard operating procedure? There's a saying that says, systems run the business, people run the systems.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when the people go away? Something better keep happening, right? Or else everything falls apart. So,
Yeah,
like I saw you at an event in LA. We kind of talked about it recently, and what a beautiful display you had set up there. And so you've trained her well, I suppose.
Well, we talk about it often. I mean, we engage in conversation enough to, like, we know the events that are coming up and we do the whole mapping out and the drawing of it. And, when I'm sharing with her the concepts and then I explain to her the reasons why, the setup, it would be good to have it this way or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, definitely. But, with her strengths and my strengths, it's a great team. And we're able to really, do like these projects and the pop-ups and stuff like that, I think, successfully, because we work together and we collaborate together very well too.
Yeah.
So that,
One of the things that we do prior to pop-up, I have a artist sketchbook and I draw, okay, we have a 10 by 10 space.
Good.
We're bringing a tent. Okay, how many tables do we need? How many fixtures do we need? You see some of these fixtures around here in the showroom, they get broken down and taken to some of the bigger events.
Yeah.
If it's a smaller events, and then so the setup will be drawn out, and then I'll have a list of, I call them fixtures, which is all the things I need: tables, chairs, bags, linens, shelves, and all that. And then the other list is all the product that I'm taking.
Yeah.
And having that in advance and then coming and be like, okay, check, got it. All right, let's go. And then I know when we get there, if I'm by myself and I get there, it's like bam, 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 bam.
and that's Tetris too, by the way, because, loading up the vehicle and what that looks
Oh my
like and knowing like, okay, well, if it's only one vehicle, how much space do we have to get everything that we need to get, and sometimes, I mean, it made sense too, as we progressed, right? what our fixture pieces look like. Now we've purchased and we've invested in pieces that break down small enough, you know, in the way that they fit in the vehicle that now you're able to fit more product, right? So there's been a great evolution that's happened over the last couple of years for sure for baskets and beads.
And have you known this has been your gifting or your strengths forever, or did you kind of fall into it?
I kind of fell into it.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it. Yes. Yeah. I mean, even initially when her and I first met, we met when I owned a boutique at the time.
Okay.
And that's kind of me falling into it. I ended up venturing into business with someone initially who said, hey, I would love to open up a boutique, but let's do this together. And that's where my journey kind of began. And so I started, you know, I mean, I had a whole shop space to fill and to organize and to create. And I would have, I mean, people would come into the space and they would say, who does your design?
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
me.
Oh,
and it's like, what school did you go to? What school of design did you go to? I didn't. But it's just something that I have a love and a flair for. So, you know, now fast forward all these years later, here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. No, there's an art to merchandising.
Yeah.
You know, you can go into boutiques or stores and see there's a reason why certain items are set up where they are in the store, right? And when you walk into a retail spot where there's been no thought into the merchandising, you know, there's a direct correlation between the merchandising and how many sales actually happen in that store.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And
Congratulations.
it looks, sometimes it looks cluttered like that. And it's chaos. So people say no to chaos. They look at something that, okay, I can't really figure this out.
You know, one of my mantras is confused minds don't buy.
Right.
There you
Or
go, yeah.
confused mind says no.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's too much to take in because it's just everything is just everywhere. It almost feels like you're being consumed by too much, and it's just like I gotta step away, you know. And you don't want your buyers or the people that are coming into your space to feel like that, like they're feeling overwhelmed,
Sure.
you know. So.
Yeah, and sometimes we actually, and I'll take a step back and think, okay, if I'm walking up here, what's going to grab my eye? Ooh, that doesn't look right. And Vanessa does it even more. She's arranging everything just so. And we do an event at the American Legion. They have their boutique there, and it's coming up. Interestingly enough, I was looking on their calendar, and they didn't have it, and I'm like, this must be around this time. And I Googled it, and they had just put the thing up, and they hadn't even sent the email out to the vendors, and I signed up for it.
Good.
But
Early bird.
at that event, you've been to Post 291, and it's dark,
Right.
and that even with the lights on in that ballroom. So we bring lighting and set up
Smart.
lighting.
There you go.
And last year, when we unplugged the lighting, people gasped. Oh, was that you? Yes. That
Talk
was
about
dark.
illumination,
Yeah.
right?
But because it was lit up, people came in.
Like moths to the flame,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
So before we even came, you know, to go live today, we were talking a little bit though about Larry. He's been to Africa, right?
Yeah.
And that's
I
something that we definitely want to
We
talk to you
we
about.
heard rumors
You've
that
heard
you had.
rumors.
Yeah.
And you've been quite a few times. So
Oh,
I would love to hear more about that. Talk to us a little bit about your
Oh,
trips.
you know, even as a young kid, I remember having this fascination with Africa. And when I was in special forces, there were some teams that were being deployed
Okay.
to Africa, and I'd always wanted to be on one of those teams and never was. And but I was fascinated. Would read as much as I could about it. There's a guy named Wilbur Smith who's written a bunch of books on Africa, and so I've read a bunch of those. And finally had an opportunity after I got off of, went back on active duty during 91 and 92, and then when I got off active duty, I had an opportunity to go to Kenya with a friend, and that didn't really work out, although I'd already had plans for it to anyway, I ended up flying into Nairobi with just the intention I was just going to travel around.
Wow. Okay.
Didn't have any real plans, had a backpack. And during that trip, I'd met some amazing people. In fact, I just was connecting with one of them the other day on social media, Nikki Quendo. Nikki, if you're out there. How are
Shout
you?
out to Nikki.
Can't wait to go see you again. But he was working for a guy who owned rhodolite and tanzanite mines in Tanzania. And at the time, he had friends that were working in public health. Long story short, I ended up just kind of hanging out with people who lived there and some expats.
Okay.
And got to live in people's homes instead of staying at hotels and eating meals with locals. And I just reinforced everything I knew from 12, 13, and 16 years old, falling in love. Like, this is something very special here. And I've met so many people, either you fall in love immediately or you're like, I am never coming back. I don't know very many people who have this, I could take it or leave it kind of thing. How about you? Have you found that?
You're right. You actually told me when I was considering going on that trip, you said you're either going to love it or you probably won't go back.
Yeah.
And you had thought that it would probably grab me. Just like it did.
Knowing you, I was pretty sure it was going to. But there's something, though, Vanessa, about the people that's there. Most of the continent is not known for being wealthy and prosperous. Now, there are some countries that are more wealthy and more prosperous than others, but many are living pretty darn close to the bone. There's corruption throughout, the world, of course, but there are some countries that are more corrupt than others there. But even people who are living on pennies a day or a couple of bucks a day, there's a joy that they feel about just being alive that is like nothing I've ever experienced before. And the smiles on their faces, it's electric, right? I mean, I can think of times, I think it was Zimbabwe probably, like outside of Harare, like no city lights, and to go to a church service or something like that that's held outdoors at night just under this canopy of stars.
Wow.
And the singing,
Yes.
oh my gosh, it touches your soul. And I don't use this language typically, but I'm telling you, it's life-changing, it's transformational.
I agree.
The bonds that people have with each other there are real as well. And they love you as just being a person. And, men aren't afraid to hold hands when they're talking, because it gets to be like really intimate talk. Like, they talk about real stuff.
Yeah.
You're not worrying about the Kardashians when you're there and
Yes.
all the other nonsense that.
Right.
But I'll tell you, every time I come back, I've been probably, I don't know, I need to check, but over a dozen times I've been to the continent and to over 20 countries. It's hard coming back.
Okay.
And it's usually because of the gluttony that I see.
Okay.
Like, there's very little waste when you go, even going to the grocery store, things aren't wrapped in packages and cardboard and plastic. You want to buy a piece of fish? There's a piece of fish, and it might be wrapped in something, might be wrapped in something, right? Or a chicken or something like that. I don't see a lot of waste. Maybe I'm missing something.
No, I actually talked about this a couple of Swahili Sundays ago about in Kenya, they have a ban on plastic bag usage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But think about just buying a thing of ramen noodles. You get a box and a bag inside it, and then there's another bag inside of it. It's crazy the waste we see here. Let alone just look at a garbage can. How much actual food? I mean, like real food that's thrown out. It used to drive me nuts when I was younger. Not younger, but
I don't know
20 years ago.
about you. Something that upsets me is when they use food for jokes and destroy food and all that kind of stuff. Because I've seen people who would just love to have that on their table,
Right.
and they'll use a lot of food to, we're gonna do this food, whatever, and they're throwing it or whatever.
Yeah.
It just really, I don't like that. It upsets me.
Yeah, it's hard. You see the extremes there. You see extreme love, and you see extreme poverty, and you see brokenness, and you see extreme corruption. You see extreme beauty. I've never thought of it that way, but I think it's a continent of extremes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Is there anything mediocre there?
No. No.
anything gray except for like stripes on a zebra.
Right.
But I mean, it's not like the gray mediocrity. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, and what you're saying about the singing, I just love it.
Oh gosh.
And I've learned a couple of the ladies. So in Kenya they speak English if they've learned it in school, and Swahili, but there's tribal languages. So the ladies in Kipsongo speak their Turkana, and they speak Turkana, and they sing these wonderful songs in Turkana. I'm like, I need to know what these songs are. So they need to be translated, and I need to know what they mean. So Layla in Kenya, our director there, got all the translation to about 3 or 4 songs. And somebody actually, I was singing with them, and they were watching the video, and they're like, "You're singing that song?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am."
Yeah, because you've learned it.
Yeah.
Well, amazing stories have been told for centuries through song.
Yes.
And drumming.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
So yes, I've been a few times, and I love it. My minor in college was African politics,
Okay.
and just loved that. A professor named Joel Samoff. He's still out there. Amazing professor from Stanford who would come. I used to go to UCSB. I went to Stanford executive program, but when I was going to UCSB, he would fly down to teach African politics classes.
Okay.
And so it's in my blood. I have not been since well before the pandemic, so I'm looking forward to getting back.
Getting back.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
Wow. Incredible.
I've only been 8 times, so I need to catch up.
Yeah.
Well, you're about to surpass me,
Yeah.
but I've been to more countries.
Yes, you have. I always like to go to other countries to visit, but and then there's some different groups that we're connecting with in other countries.
Yeah.
We may end up in other countries
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it's good.
Just depends which way the things maneuver.
Yeah.
We're really close to Uganda up in Mount Elgon, and I've connected with somebody in Uganda who wants to do something similar to what we're doing. So with the farm up there. Yeah.
Definitely.
So
And you mentioned also Larry is involved in leadership, and let's talk a little bit about that as well.
yeah, and actually what I'd like maybe is some tips. There's a lot of businesses like this one, heart-centered businesses
Yes.
that don't have a lot of team. Like we don't have a lot of team, and we have some things like I hire out my bookkeeping and all that. But when you don't have a lot of team, how can somebody get the best bang for their buck?
Wow. So I can't give you like, if you just do this, it will solve the problem. Every business is different.
Right.
Some are product based like yours, service based, right? There are a lot of examples though of for-profit businesses that have a cause. Okay. I think a lot of people feel like I've got to run a nonprofit. And the problem with a nonprofit, now nonprofit may be right for you, but the problem with a nonprofit is you've got a lot of oversight, a lot of additional reporting that you need to do. Some people, that's not their bag. Some people it is, so it all depends. But there are plenty of examples where organizations said, hey, we're going to be a for-profit business, so I get to make the decisions. I don't have the governmental oversight, and I'm just going to give away all the proceeds, most of the proceeds, X dollars per unit. What I have found that last version I just said is probably the most effective way if you are going to be a for-profit, for-good business. Conscious capitalism is what a lot of people call it. Because there's a little bit of skepticism. I remember I think it was Target or Albertsons or something, they used to say blank on the wall as you're checking out, blank percentage of net proceeds donated each year. And so I had to do the mental gyration because that's the way I am. How much are they really donating? How much can that be manipulated? Is that after investor distributions, or what is it? And so there are organizations that have said, for every unit sold, we're going to donate $3, $7, $1, whatever it is. And so that there's transparency. I think we're longing for transparency in every area of life, aren't we? Life, leadership, religion. Just be transparent with me. Tell me how much it is. And so I've seen businesses that have exploded when all of a sudden they're saying, for every unit we sell, we're going to donate blank dollars to this cause or this organization. Now, I do know an organization that did this, and they end up donating so much money each year that the IRS had to write a special tax code for them.
Wow.
Wow.
And they were donating millions of dollars a year.
Okay.
So, what's the tip? I guess don't forget about virtual assistants. A lot of things can be outsourced, whether it's here or elsewhere, overseas. Now, I know that a lot of people that are here in the U.S. want to say, I only want to hire people in the U.S. Okay, that just means your operating costs are going to be a lot higher. But if you're serving a country like Kenya, are there people in Kenya that can be doing your work? Well, holy smokes, look around. They sure can.
Right.
The products are there, but are there admin things that they could do as well? I don't know. But you got to ask yourself. So one of the businesses that I have is it's called Hire My VA. We help people hire virtual assistants out of the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lower cost of living there, and so they charge less for everything from bookkeeping to marketing to SEO, writing code for websites, whatever it is. But the salary that gets paid to them puts them at the top end of the wage earners in that country, but it's still a fraction of what you would charge someone here in the U.S.
Right.
And so that's a benefit, right? We know some of these VAs that we work with, by working with our clients, have the first time been able to move out of a tin shack into a home.
Right.
That's doing good. Is it doing good for someone here in the U.S.? Well, I guess a roundabout way, because you're providing services to them, like the marketing people, right? Or admin assistants or whatever it is. So outsource if you can, when you're small. That's really important. The key to this, though, Eldana, is you have to treat these outsourced, whether it's the bookkeeper like you have, or the virtual assistant that's in the Philippines. You still need to treat them like a team member, as if they're part of your team. Otherwise, there's going to be a cultural gap, and they're going to treat you like an outsourced 1099 person. Generally, those people don't show up and give you 100%.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Do things like this constantly. You have to be freaking everywhere. You have to when it comes down to marketing to these small businesses, for sure, and do as much free stuff as you can. It might be better if you ask me a question and I can answer it directly than me trying to rattle off.
No, that's good though, because
Yeah.
it's actually what you're saying is, I've been looking on Upwork for virtual assistants in Kenya, and I've
Yeah.
seen a few, so I'm going to put together something,
Good.
because our slogan is, or our tagline is, empowering women, educating children
Yeah.
in Kenya.
Yeah.
This will be empowering another woman to also be part of what we're doing there.
Yeah. Well, I think the great thing about this, whether it's Upwork or someone else, is that the women or the workers in Nairobi, you're going to have a completely different experience with than someone who's out in the bush.
Right.
It's just reality,
Right.
right? Because out in the bush, you're not going to have, they may have satellite access to internet, right? But in Nairobi, they're more likely to, although
Right.
even there's rationing sometimes of electricity and
Right,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. But you're going to find a more professional base in Nairobi than you're going to out in the bush, right?
Yeah, interestingly enough, one of our little products, the little wooden spoons, and wanted to get some pictures because Fairtrade LA was using it as for their cause box.
Uh-huh.
And the ladies get them from somebody who carves them, and then they hand bead them.
Okay.
And I was like, can we get a picture of them carving them? Well, they don't even know what a phone is up there, let alone,
Oh, geez
you know,
Louise.
if anybody's going to get up there to get a picture of it. And like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll just give that a miss then.
This time.
Yeah,
Right.
this time. Yeah. So, as sometimes you just there are situations where you're not going to be able to get that because it's just too rural.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You know, on this leadership thing, you were asking, what can someone small, do if they've got a small team? You better know what your mission is. You better be able to clearly articulate it. I mean, like really, like in a sentence, like or on a bumper sticker, kind of thing, because you don't have the marketing dollars to go out and tell a story or to do a TV show on it. And so I would encourage folks to really get crystal clear on their vision and what the mission of their organization is, and communicate it everywhere you can. You are constantly, like, you wear your product. People, well, you do. You're
Right.
a walking billboard.
Right.
Well, why? Because you believe in the cause. I don't know a lot of people who it's a side hustle for them or whatever, but you need to actually believe in it. When you believe in it, it's easier to draw in donors, investors, team members. You would not be doing this if you didn't believe that she believed in the cause.
Right, it's true. Yeah.
If you weren't sucked into it, well, no, it's what it is, right?
And she was sucked into it when I was in Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
On your first trip,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact. Yeah. No,
How
you're
so?
Well, when she went on her first mission trip there, she instant messaged me through Facebook on Messenger. We had just met, by the way, maybe twice.
Yeah, because I was speaking at the women's conference.
Right. And then another local business
Right,
in the
had
community I was in was
Yeah.
having a red ribbon. We met there again. So long story short, you're in Africa. I get a message through instant messenger. When I get back to the States, I need to see you. Okay. And that was kind of odd because I'm like, I've only met her twice, but okay. So you show up to
You
the
cannot
shop.
escape her grasp.
Right.
Once you're in her sights,
Right, yeah, like a razor. Right. So sure enough, she comes into the boutique. She came into my shop and she walked in and she had just a handful of paper beads, and she began to share with me what she felt while she was there. And then I remember her telling me, "Will you help me?" And I said, "Sure. What do you want me to do? Like, well, how can I help?" And she said, "Will you sell the beads in your shop?" And I said, "Yes." So my boutique was the first boutique to actually carry baskets and beads when she first came
Wow.
back with this idea of doing baskets and beads. And so that's kind of where our roots, where we were established.
yeah.
So-
So that brings up another point about leadership: is you have to be courageous. Courageous, not fearless. Two different things. Two completely different things. People think you need to be fearless. I've walked the earth with some of the biggest swinging blanks out there, warriors, and fear still creeps in, but you still take action. You're still courageous.
Right.
I know a lot of people who have really good ideas, but they're not courageous about stepping out and saying, I believe in this so much. I'm willing to step outside where I'm comfortable to tell the truth about what I believe about these beads. That, hey, if we can get these sold in your shop, we can transform lives. How many miles away?
Yeah,
Is it?
thousands.
Right?
Yes.
And so it takes courage to do that. So you better believe in your product and in your mission, and you better be able to tell the truth about it, right? So I guess I would share that. The interesting thing about truth, I was talking to some of my buddies about this last night. Every Wednesday I get together with 3 other guys and we kind of hold each other accountable and we talk about it. And one of the themes last night was truth. And it reminded me of this saying from this philosopher, and I may butcher it right now, but he said that truth is not about comfort, but about liberation. Truth is not medicine, it's a killer. Think about this. Truth, right? It really sheds light on the darkness when we tell the truth. But we've gotten so used to changing the definitions of words because the truth hurts. That's what my dad used to say growing up. Truth hurts, doesn't it? He used to say, don't it? Truth hurts, don't it? Right? Yeah, it does sometimes,
Yeah.
right? But it's not supposed to make us comfortable. These businesses that we have for a cause, there's oftentimes some trauma, some pain, some hurt that we're dealing with. I think, but let's list some of them. There's water wells, there's sexual trauma, there's all kinds of businesses that are trying to serve some kind of need, raising money for what happened in Maui. There's hurt there, and we need to tell the truth about it. I'm doing it because blank. There are these types of people that hurt. What's sexual exploitation and sex trafficking right now? That's a big topic. We need to tell the truth about this stuff.
Right.
It ain't comfortable to talk about it,
Yeah.
Right.
right? But boy, when we tell the truth, it can actually liberate, right? And it can kill the evil that's associated with it.
Right.
But that takes courage.
Courage. You're right.
Courage changes everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Powerful stuff.
I was taking a class about fundraising not too long ago, and she was challenging us to really dig deep about our why. Why do you do this? Why do you really do this? And she had some questions.
Yeah.
And I've always thought about, my why. I've always wanted to empower women, but and educating children. But I really got in touch with that during that course that like I never had before. So for the children part of it, these kids, I'm really passionate about making sure that they are able to finish high school.
Yeah.
I was a high school dropout.
Mm.
Nobody cared about me.
Yeah.
Nobody cared that I finished high school.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really, I get emotional just thinking about it. I'm really passionate about helping those kids make sure that they stay in school because of nobody cared, for God's greatest gift, God's perfect plan, whatever, that I actually got my GED and joined the Air Force and got a college degree and turned my life around.
Yeah.
But most kids don't get that opportunity,
Right.
especially over there.
Yeah, that's right.
And it really got connected to that. And then the empowering women part, many of these women have been assaulted. That's happened to me. And I'm like, I don't want, another woman to have to, I want them to have the ability to be able to not only take care of themselves, but also take care of their children and be able to stand up and be empowered.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because there's been a lot of great missions that have been born out of righteous anger. And what you're feeling is the reason you get emotional, I think, is because of righteous anger, right? But we think that there's something wrong where that all anger is bad. I don't believe that it is. Properly directed, it's a good motivator,
Yeah.
right? And but hopefully we're at a heart-centered place where we can let go of the anger and redirect it towards good things versus bad
Yeah.
things.
Yes.
Well, it was great for me to go through that exercise because I've healed from all that trauma in my life. And
Have you?
I think so.
Okay. Just asking. It takes a lot of work to heal.
Yeah,
This stuff.
no,
There's a
yeah.
lot of people, and I was there at one point. Oh yeah, that's all gone.
No, I've done
But I
it.
had something happen recently, like in the last year and a half. Like I did not completely
Right,
heal
it
from that
kind of
stuff yet.
erupted. You're like,
No,
oh, wait a minute.
Every now and then something comes up because we were talking about some things that happened at my job today, and it just triggered some stuff. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna have to process this later where that's coming from because I just had this in my throat and I was feeling anxiety, and I'm like, I'm done with this. I need to go away, and I breathed on the way over here, but I'm gonna have to go and think about what triggered that because just because you're healed from something doesn't mean that something doesn't trigger that you have to then work on it. And I can talk about the things that happened to me, and I'm okay sharing those. I've done it as a speaker. But that doesn't mean that something's not going to come along and trip me up that I know.
I'm just poking at you a little bit because I've got to do the work as well. Because what I've realized over the years is that if I've got a wounding or trauma, we all do.
Yeah.
Don't lie to yourself. That I think it's healed. Just because I've been able to talk about it from the stage, sometimes it's from I disassociate from it. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily healed from it, right? And I don't know if we ever are completely. I mean, it doesn't take, you can pick at a scab, poke at a scar, and it can still hurt.
I think
Years
what
later.
I think about healing is that for me, I used to drag it
Oh, yeah.
behind
Oh, I've
me,
been there. Yeah.
and I was the victim. I've been through all this stuff. Somebody feels sorry for me, kind of thing. And I was able to let that part of it go and not drag it with me anymore.
Not so good.
So I actually think I
Freeing and
shared with you, like with my parents, both being alcoholics. I went to their graves and read letters of amends to them.
Good.
And then there was somebody who I had said I would never in a million years ever forgive, and I would never make amends with them, and I would never even see them again. And they were at the top of my whatever list. I ended up doing that with them, and the person sat there with this blank look on their face. Are you done yet? Like, yeah, I'm done. All right. I got up and left, but I felt so much freedom.
Yeah, I mean, knowing the tribe that hangs out with you, Aldana, I'm sure some have heard this, but there may be people who haven't. But there is the saying that unforgiveness is like drinking a poison and think it's going to hurt someone else, right? And so we do have to let it go.
Yeah,
And it's harder to do. It's easier said than done,
definitely.
right? I get it.
I always say if you think about the situation and it still boils up, like, gotta do some more work around that
Right.
one.
Right.
Yeah, one of the things though that helped me with some of the healing that I need to do was actual travel. Americans, we're in a weird situation in that most Americans have never been outside of their state, let alone the country. Because we're a big geographic country, right? Whereas most places around the world, they're quite small. Many of our states are larger than many countries. It's just easy to travel, throughout. It's not necessarily safe, but you travel around Africa and, drive 4 hours and you're in a different country. Europe, same thing, right? But to travel through some of these third world and developing countries gives you a different perspective on pain, particularly war-torn places where we've been. Pain, suffering, poverty, want, need, and love. And boy, does it put things in perspective, right? And I had a couple of those epiphanies, like, really, I'm carrying this thing behind me.
Right.
Really, is it really that bad?
Right.
Come on, yeah, okay. It doesn't diminish, particularly when there's hurt and damage and trauma done to small children. I mean, that's my nerve, when you push on that kind of thing. But still, I wish that more Americans would travel overseas and not just to touristy spots, but travel the world.
Yeah, because when you just go to a touristy spot, yeah, you're going there. It's all curated for you to enjoy, and you don't necessarily see reality that way.
Curated is a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, just think about Mexico, not too far from California, right? And you go to some of these resort towns, and just outside those resort towns
is the
real
Yeah.
Right.
squalor and pain.
Well,
and
I like how
suffering.
you mentioned about when you were in Africa, though. I think it was your first trip, you said, when you went you had your backpack,
Backpack.
but then like you were staying with families and you were
Yes.
eating the food.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like really, like that's real
Yeah.
travel. Like
Yeah.
you're able to really be like saturated in,
Yeah.
The culture.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
remember my first time there, and I think it was with Nikki, and we were going to go to this best chicken in Arusha, and it was at Mama's house, like a house.
You're all no, literally.
And people
Mama's
would go
house.
to the house. This is the restaurant.
Right.
4 tables on her porch.
So cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were in Lamu so we go do our work in Kenya, and then I always take Layla and her family as a team. We go and chill out and have some R&R. I definitely need that before I come back. So we went to Lamu, and we went to this restaurant, and it's kind of like it's expensive stuff. It's like touristy stuff, and that they were looking at me. They're like, "We don't really want to eat here. Do you want to go somewhere else?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go somewhere else." So they asked, "Where's a good place for some Kenyan food?" And we went in this place. And it's a nice restaurant, but oh my gosh, that we were so hungry, and they brought out this wonderful different dishes, and we got quiet. Nobody said a word
Because you were
Was it
enjoying
so
the
good?
Yeah,
food.
it was so good. And actually, Layla and I still talk about that, and people are amazed that I'll eat pretty much anything.
Yeah.
We went to a Maasai tribe when we were there in Naruk, and they brought out a hunk of beef, I think it was a goat. They brought out a hunk of meat and a knife.
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's good. One of my favorite things in Kenya is the roasted maize. They have the maize, the corn on
Okay.
and they just have it on some guy or woman on the side of the road just has a little fire pit and is roasting it there. And some of them pop sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. That's one of my favorite things.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm salivating.
I know,
just
more
thinking
good
about
stuff. Good stuff, right?
So you've been watching Baskets and Beads. Actually, what you were saying about the different business types, the products are in a for-profit.
Yeah.
Everything else we do, like for the school fees and the farm and things like that, is
Well, I remember talking about that.
nonprofit side.
Yeah.
Actually, because I was starting it out as book and a bead when I was speaking, book and a bead. Here's a book, here's a bead.
Yeah.
And how am I going to put a bead in the nonprofit and the book and the for-profit and the speaking fee over here? And it just got too confusing.
Right.
I thought, just put all the products in the for-profit side, and then the actual donation type things where people donate into the nonprofit side. And then we have a registered NGO in Kenya now.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's really
And just non-governmental organization.
Yeah.
For those who don't know.
Yeah, non-governmental organization. And it took us about a year to get that.
Yeah.
They kept delaying.
Process,
Well, you need this form, and you need to get an email address, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And Manu, Layla's husband over there in Kenya, actually he's here in the U.S. now. We'll be seeing him sometime soon. Manu, if you're listening, I'll be seeing you soon. I'm already going to put you to work. I've already told you about that. Layla loves it. I'm like, he's going to work. Actually, I'm going to squirrel a little bit because I told him, I said, as a member of the NGO board, you get the opportunity to assist us with the upcoming pop-up events that we'll be having.
He gets the opportunity.
He gets the opportunity as a member of the board.
Yes, of course.
So what having the NGO in Kenya has done for us actually has given us credibility, because when we go
Sure.
to tell somebody, blah, 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 yeah, we're a registered NGO. What? You're a registered NGO here in Kenya? Yes, we are. Oh, and they lean in and they're, let's do business. Let's talk.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of sketchy nonprofits out there. Let's be honest. One of the things I was telling a client the other day about you, one of my mentoring clients, and I remember, here's what businesses can do. Remember I said you should be flipping everywhere? You've been to Kenya, and you've actually done TV appearances in Kenya about this whole thing. And I tell clients this all the time. TV, radio, particularly those, terrestrial radio and TV, they are clamoring for content. They're clamoring for interesting ideas, right? Particularly Americans going overseas. Don't you find that?
Yeah. There's been a lot of people that have want to interview me about what I'm doing there, and then when I was in Kenya, it was Amani Radio and TV, and they're like, we want to have you on the show. And so I've been on the radio and TV over there.
Yeah.
And then they've done they actually did a story where they went out to the Kipsongo slum and they interviewed some people there, and they did a whole piece on it.
And that takes guts the first time you've ever been on a TV show, or the first time you've been on a radio show. It takes courage.
It does, especially when for us, we've been doing it for a long time, and there's people watching, and there'll be people watching another time later or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you've never done it before, it's like
the camera goes on and you're in the headlights.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, people are watching.
Yeah.
The first time that I was on a national, I was on Fox Business. And it was a studio here, but it was on this platform and this chair, and you looked at, there was a computer and a little
Oh, it was
camera.
a live remote?
Yeah.
Oh, those are hard.
Oh, and you're having to, you can't do this. You have to be the whole time. You have to have an expression the whole time, even when the host is speaking. You can't be like looking around and that was the weirdest thing, to have energy in front of a camera in an empty room with nobody else in there.
Except for yourself.
But you learn how to do that, and it's really important. If you are listening and you do have a business, do lives, do videos somewhere. A lot of times you'll see me pop in at Fairtrade Long Beach. I'm like, I'm here at Fairtrade Long Beach. Let's check out what I'm doing. Oh, I'm updating the product. If you haven't been here, let's walk around. And I walk people around. And I did a video that I put up on TikTok about this. I think I've done it on Instagram and Facebook as well, just walking people around the showroom. And if you don't want to right away be on something like this, like we're having this live, we do this once a week, and then I do Swahili Sunday on Sunday at 9 a.m. Just do that. Just talk about your products, your services, be out and about, roving around. I usually do, when I'm doing a pop-up, it's a perfect time to do a video and start talking about what you're doing. Sometimes I walk around and interview other people. They're like, get that away from me.
Yeah, and guess what? The first few times you do it, you're going to stumble and you're going to make mistakes, and it's not going to be very comfortable, and it's going to be difficult. But everything's difficult until it gets easy. So you just keep persevering.
Yeah.
Right? And don't expect that you're going to be a rock star and have 100,000 followers the first time you get on there. Just keep doing it.
There's a saying that says the first is your worst. So the first time you do it is the first time you do it, and that's the worst you'll ever do. You can improve from there and keep going up. Not to say that maybe you might not have an off day. There's been times when I've been speaking for a long time, and I do a speaking engagement. I'm like, whoa, what happened there?
Yeah, I've had those.
When you play back the footage and you're like,
oh, okay, what
The
was
C
that?
performance,
Yeah.
maybe.
critique it, and then you just, the next time you're ready to go.
And that's another thing that's important. We can talk about that, the after action review.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's most people don't know this, but for a long time in this country, veterans were starting businesses at a rate 4 times greater than the general population. Veterans. And then the number one indicator of success for the SBA, the Small Business Administration, for loans and those types of things that they give out, is veteran status. All right, think about that. Veteran or not, they're going to pick the veterans. Korn Ferry did a survey that showed that veterans are, 1.8 times more likely to succeed in business than their non-veteran counterparts. So almost twice as likely to succeed. So I've been studying this for a long time. Aldana and I have talked about this before. But I think it comes down to a couple of things. One is vets tend to understand that you have to serve someone if you're going to be successful in business or in leadership. It's about serving. When you go into the military, you put on the uniform, you go into the service.
Yes.
And they continue to serve afterwards,
Yes.
right? But there's 2 other things, I think. Yeah, people say, okay, they're disciplined, they know how to lead, they know how to follow, all that kind of stuff. That's part of it, sure. But I think the service element is key, but there's 2 other things. One is developing contingency plans, planning for a worst case scenario, right? How many of us don't? I've heard people say failure is not an option. Well, no, you will fail. As soon as those rounds start coming down range, all your great laid plans are going to go out the window. So have contingency plans. But what Donna, you're talking about here is to always do what we call AARs, after action reviews or after action reports. And just to simplify that for everyone, after every marketing initiative you do, after every merger or acquisition you do, after every key hire that you do, you ought to basically always be doing after action reviews. And it's basically this: ask yourself 3 questions. What do we do right? What do we do wrong? And how can we improve it the next time around? That's it. And by the way, when you do it with a group, like when we would come back from a training exercise or a mission, before we took showers, before we did anything else, we got into our team room or wherever we were at, and we would do this without placing blame. That's the key here. You can't place blame.
Nice.
Just give the facts.
Fantastic.
Here's the facts, right? What do we do right? What do we do wrong? And how can we improve the next time? And then you actually have to, that last thing, how can we improve the next time? You have to actually incorporate those, or you're just going to be doing the same stupid thing the next time.
You're right.
Right?
Wow. Good
And so
stuff.
it's vital in the military because it truly can be life or death. And so I think that those 3 things separate veterans from the rest of the community. That doesn't mean everyone you need to go sign up and go in the military, but I think if you apply those three things, have a service mentality, be crystal clear on who you're serving, your key stakeholders, right? Who are they? Contingency plans, and after action reviews. When I share this with non-veterans, they usually like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that stuff before. But when you mentioned the veteran entrepreneurs and business owners, like, well, yeah, that's how I live my life.
Yes.
So,
We've done that
Yes,
before.
plenty of times.
And actually,
Good stuff. Love it.
I AAR'd the entire pop-up season last year.
Yes.
And yes, and what didn't work was the amount of them I did.
oh, there you go. Yeah, let's do that again.
Yeah, and then also what didn't work were because I was testing out all different markets, so I'm very
Sure.
particular now. I was actually invited to do one in a couple weeks, and before I agreed to do one, I have a whole list of questions. Am I bringing a tent? Is it inside or outside? What are the details? Blah, blah, blah. And somebody said, oh, well, we have a tent. We have the tables. I'm like, oh, that means I only have to bring product.
Yeah.
And then it's at night. So I asked, is there lighting? Well, we have lighting, but we can give you extra lighting. And I'm thinking, yes, please, because most of the lighting that I've learned from pop-ups that they have is insufficient to light the products.
Yeah.
And I want to be the booth that everybody.
You want the beacon. You want to be the beacon.
The illumination.
Actually, I saw
Yes.
that. I
Yes.
did a Christian concert in Lancaster, Palmdale area, 2018. I think it was 2018, probably, or 2019. And it was at night, and they provided a tent with a light, and it was just this little dim,
A lamp
horrible light.
40-watt light bulb.
with a shade.
But there was one tent
Yeah.
that it was lit up with
Yeah.
these bright lights. So I went over there. Where did you get these lights? These are just bulbs. We took the regular kind of amber lights that are in most of those things, unscrewed them and put these in.
Mm.
And that's exactly what I did. And now
A beacon. Yeah.
I'm a beacon.
Well, you have to. These are things most people forget about, particularly if you're selling product. People have to see what they're buying, for crying out loud.
Yes.
I mean, I go to
Yes.
some of these street fairs and those types of things, and they're just counting on the street lights to
Right.
illuminate their product, and can't figure out
Yeah.
why am I not moving anything.
Right.
Details matter.
And there were actually at
Very much.
the American Legion event there were some people that didn't sell anything.
Right.
Ugh, that hurts.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing.
And it's a
Literally
small fee, but you don't want to not sell anything.
Right.
And I'm not there to break even. I have a goal in mind. Okay, this event, this is how much I want to walk away with.
Well, there's the opportunity cost though too. For every hour they spent there, they could have been doing something else.
Right.
Right. Right.
And that's what I thought about with all these pop-ups I did that didn't generate either any revenue or not enough revenue to be worth my while. But the ones that did generate, for instance, by the way, Irvine Global Village is October 14th, I think it is. And it'll be at the Great Park. So Baskets of
Wow.
East Kenya will be there. We got accepted into it for the second year in a row. So I'd love for you to come by and say, hey, if you're local.
Yeah.
And we do have new products, by the way, that are going to be showcased at that
Yes.
event. So you're
That
definitely going
will
to
be
want to come by
coming
for
from
sure.
Kenya.
Yes.
I've talked about dresses. Dresses are coming.
Yes.
Good. Good. Well, I want to piggyback on what you just said though about sometimes you don't sell anything. There are times, now it's rare, but there are times when we need to consider, is the exposure worth the trip and the effort?
Right.
So I'm a believer like ABM always be marketing. What are people walking? They may not be buying today, but how do they easily buy from me when they're ready? What's the takeaway? One of the things, few positives came out of the COVID pandemic, but one of the positives I think is the rebirth, the resurrection of the QR code.
Love it.
It's so easy. And by the way, there are great ways. There are some QR codes that look like pieces of art.
Mhm.
You can tell it's a QR code, but take a look at those because they can fit really nicely instead of just the square white thing
Right.
that makes your marketing materials look like crap. There's some really cool ones that you can develop now. And I would encourage people to use an opportunity every time somebody walks by your booth in one of these events. Is there something that the eyes could be taken away with them. If not now, when?
Right.
Right. So I just want to make sure that people don't feel like, oh my gosh, should I make sure I'm making money on every event? Yeah, you ought to be trying to make money on every event, but there are times where exposure is more valuable.
Right, true,
Then,
true. Yeah,
You know.
yeah, you make a good point with that. There's sometimes for me, it's like, oh, because I have I have some handout things that
Yeah.
people can say, a little fold out flyer that's wonderfully designed, and it turned out great. And people walk away with that, and then I'll get an order later.
There you go.
And then we have a sign with a QR code where they can go to get on. Well, the QR code on the fold-out flyer
Takes them to the website.
takes them to the website. Then we have a QR code where they can go follow on Instagram or Facebook.
Well, when you do these types of trade shows, these street fairs, those types of things, you got to remember a lot of people. By the way, you want to lower as many barriers as possible, so be able to have a credit card processor that can,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't need to plug in and all those kind of things. Be willing to take cash.
Mhm.
If people want to give you money, be ready to take their money. But sometimes people go to these things and they say, I'm only going to spend $100, I'm only going to spend $20, and they've already spent it by the time they found your great product, your great booth, right? So if they can't buy from you now, give them an opportunity to buy
Right.
later on.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Think
true,
ahead.
true about the multiple payment options. Is people say, oh, what do you take? Cash, card, Venmo,
Cash App.
Cash
Zelle.
App,
Yes.
Apple
Yeah.
Pay. What do you
Take it
have? What
all.
do you want?
Yes.
And now they have. So I've got to use Square for credit cards, but they also have it now where the Square you just hold the phone and they
That's
tap
right.
and pay. So
Yep.
it makes it really simple and
Yep.
easy.
That's what I'm doing.
So make sure people can Venmo you and Cash App you and Apple Pay you and all the different avenues, so you don't have a barrier to somebody getting through to you. And also, yeah, cash. I have a little thing with cash because some people like to pay cash. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't want to put it on a credit card.
I prefer cash.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm a rarity nowadays.
Yeah. At a lot of these events, people pay in cash.
Yeah, yeah.
But then some people are excited because they pay. They don't have enough cash and they can pay with credit cards. That gives an option. I had a event I was attending, and I had a big setup, so it was taking me a long time to break down. And I'm breaking down. It was at a church, and this lady comes over with her friend. Oh, do you have any more of those aprons? I want. My friend wants an apron. Oh yeah, so be willing to still serve people
Oh, yeah.
even if you're packing
I'm
up.
closed.
Right.
So I go over and I get in the bag and I get the aprons out and I put them out, and she's like, oh, I like this one. And then she looks and sees stuff and she just went nuts. She spent like $1,600.
Whoa, $1,600. And you could have just said, oh no, I'm closed.
And
Right.
then she was wanting, well, do you have this? And I'm like digging stuff back out, and she's still buying and buying and buying. I'm like, oh, I have this one in this color, and I'm digging in the bin. And I was supposed to meet a friend for lunch, and I'm like, I'm still here selling. I'll be a while. Just
Yeah.
wait for me. And I just kept on going. So be willing to continue serving.
Right.
That's
I see this not just at these types of trade show type places. I see it at stores, like little boutiques. I prefer to buy anything, give my money to independent owners versus the franchise whenever I can. Where was I see this often. There is, I don't know if I should say, I'm not going to say the name of
The
it.
name,
okay?
right? Yeah.
I'm not
Leave
gonna
the
say-
name
I'm
out.
not gonna say the name. But in my neighborhood is I think I actually took a picture on my phone. I'll send it to you afterwards, just Aldana, so you can see it. It is I'll say it, it's a pet grooming place, okay? And their hours are they say from 9 a.m. till, and there's no till,
Okay.
okay? And they're closed, it's a pet grooming place. And they're closed on Saturday and Sunday.
Wow.
and they're still open.
Pet grooming place. You think they'd be open on the weekends?
Exactly. And it's got
Sounds
a self dog wash thing where you can take it.
Okay.
When do people do this?
Uh-huh.
weekends,
Weekends.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that happened. And also in my neighborhood, there was a coffee shop, and they're now the second owner there. They changed the name of it. But I remember going in there. There was like three of us. We're going to go in for coffee, and they were supposed to close at 3. We went by at 2:30, and the person was locking up.
It's
yeah, both you guys like
Yeah.
they're
Well,
supposed to be open until 3. Which
Yeah.
I think is a stupid time to be closing to begin with.
right.
Could talk all day about that.
Right.
But it was 2:30. Well, we've been really slow. That's
You're
what
up,
they
but we're
said.
coming in. We're ready to.
We're coming. We're 3 people. We're going to be buying at least coffees and probably a couple little snacky snacks, right?
Yeah.
No, we're closing up. Don't do that.
No.
Because guess what? Somebody's going to go on a live. They're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, you're going to be the topic of
And you
conversation.
can't- you figure,
Don't
why,
do that.
why am I not making my sale?
Or they're going to go on
Right.
Yelp or
Yeah.
somewhere and
Exactly.
Yes.
make a
Right.
review.
Be willing to take people's money if they're
Yes.
willing to offer it to you.
Right. Great customer service comes to mind when I think about that too. You know,
Yes.
it's
The dying art.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, 100%.
Yeah, people a lot of times they'll act like they're doing you a favor to take your money.
Yeah. I've seen people like that.
Yeah, it's confusing to me. I don't
It's
understand.
confusing.
Like I don't understand.
Well, they're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Because there are some people that are just have a natural smile, and they're courteous and they want to be helpful. My son used to be famous. He would if he saw somebody who looked like they were having a bad day, he'd say, "I bet you can't make them smile," And I said, "Well, why don't you try it?" And he always get really shy about it. This is when he's like 15 years old, right? And so I always would make it if they're having a bad day or being rude to people in front of me, then I would do whatever I could to get them to laugh or smile or something. And sometimes this couldn't get it.
Yeah,
Couldn't make it happen.
You weren't making them crack at all, huh? You're like,
No.
it must be a
So I was
really
like,
tough day.
You're in the wrong business, my friend.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, we could talk forever. How long have we been going?
I know. Great conversation,
Yeah.
great company. So
Yeah.
appreciate you, Larry, for coming
I
in. for
appreciate
sure.
you guys.
Well,
I love
yeah,
what you're doing.
but before we wrap up, do you have any parting words you'd like to share?
I don't know. One of my mantras is to don't get seduced by what other people think success is. Because I know you've got a lot of followers who are like on that success train. And what I've tried to do over the last couple of decades anyway, I can tell you probably exactly when it started. It's been over a couple of decades. Maybe 25 years is I tell people stop chasing success. Stop it and instead try to seek a life of significance. Play a significant role in the life of your family and your community and your place of worship and your business and your team members' lives, employees. Some people call them employees, I call them team members. Because success is the byproduct of living a life of significance. So I guess my parting word would be go do something significant today. That's what I would say.
Good
Yeah.
stuff. Wow. Good stuff. Love it.
We're probably going to continue this
Yes.
because we need to sign off at some point here. I know that. Thank you all for coming and watching and connecting, and thank you for
Thanks for the invite.
stopping by and hanging out in the Baskets of Beach showroom. One thing that's coming up October 21st is our Sipping Teas and Painting Trees event. I posted it a couple of days ago. So there's only 12 spots for that. So you want to register. It's $75. It covers all of the paints. You might want to come if you're around. Learn how to paint. A Kenya scene. We're painting.
It's a beautiful
Kenya
tree,
scene.
actually. And that's with our dear friend, Gina Ferrara.
Yeah, and she's an amazing artist. So
Yes.
she's going to provide all the supplies that you need and the instruction. And we're going to hang out here and have some Kenya tea and other teas. And we'll have some goodies to imbibe in as well, and time to just spend and hang out and connect and break some bread and paint some trees and enjoy each other's company. So there are only 12 spots available for that. I will put the link again in the comments a little bit later on, and I'll be posting that again. It came out in the newsletter this past week. If you're not on the newsletter, go to basketsbeatskenya.com. There'll be a little yellow pop-up show up, and you can put your name and email in there, and you'll be on the email list, and you'll get info about these events. We're going to have other events here over the Christmas holidays coming up, because that's very shortly just around the corner.
Around the corner.
And all the pop-ups that we'll be at. So we'll have opportunities for you to come to pop-ups, to come here in the space, to connect with us online. If you're not local, you can do a virtual trunk show. We're going to have trunk shows as well. That was in the newsletter, and also going to be shared more online. So there'll be more to come about that as well. So you have the opportunity to bring your friends here or bring us to your place and let us set up a trunk show and do some holiday shopping.
That was a lot of fun.
Get some free gifts.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So that was a mouthful of information, but you can get this by being on the newsletter. So go subscribe to the newsletter now. I only send it out until I get the virtual assistant in place again. I only send it out a couple of times a month, but I also post things on social media. So just follow along and hope to see you sometime over the next several months.
What do we like to say when we end our segments?
Nakupenda.
Nakupenda. Thank you for joining us, you guys.